Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for patiently waiting for my videos. As I promised, that's my first video, and we are starting learning CCNA. CCNA is an abbreviation for Cisco Certified Network Associate, and I try my best to give you all the materials and topics that are included in CCNA. And we will discuss the theory, and also we will practice the lab parts as well. So wait for the lab parts of videos that we will do a lot of lab practices, including all the protocols, all the routing protocols like RIP, OSPF, EIGRP, BGP, all the routing protocols and all the topics in CCNA, including ACL, firewall, VLANs, inter-VLAN routing, and all the topics in CCNA. So stay tuned and wait for my next videos. As I promised, today we're going to discuss and learn about IP addresses, which is one of the most important topic in networking. Without IP address, networking is not possible, and this is one of the most important topic in networking and CCNA. So IP stands for Internet Protocol, and address is definitely address, and V4 means version 4. So in IP addresses we have two versions, version 6 and version 4. Today we discuss version 4 IP addresses. So what is IP address? IP address, as I mentioned before, it's Internet Protocol address, and it is a logical address. What does it mean? It means logically it assign address to the computers or devices on the network. That computers or devices on the network can be accessible through that address. It's like the house address, where you have an address, a street address, and house number. So that the street address is like the network address, the network portion of the address, and the house number is the host portion of the IP addresses. We will discuss more in the next chapter, next slide. But for now, we just want to make sure that we understand that Internet Protocol or IP address is one of the most important address on network, in the network, and for devices. That without this IP address, devices will not be able to communicate and will not be able to locate each other on the network. And IP is a network layer address, layer 3. So this is, I'm talking about the OSI model. In the OSI model, we have 7 layers, and the second layer is the data link layer. The first layer is physical layer, the second layer is data link layer, and the third layer is the network layer. So IP address functioning in the third layer, which is the network layer. As I mentioned before, we have two versions of IP address, IP version 4, which is a 32-bit address, and IP version 6, which is a 128-bit address. Now, IP address version 4 classes, we have historically the IP address version 4 divided into 5 classes, although nowadays the definition is a little bit different. They're going by the CIDR notation, which is a little bit different than classes, but however, historically this was used and it still is used. Class A, Class B, Class C, and Class D, Class E. Which Class A, B, C are used in LAN and WAN. LAN means local area network and WAN means wide area network, and Class D is reserved for multicasting, and Class E is reserved for research and development. As I mentioned before, IP version 4 is a 32-bit IP address, and it's divided into 4 octets, and each octet is an 8-bit. Now, IP address in binary form, we can represent this IP address, which is in decimal form 85.51.191.1, into binary form. It will be something like this. To change to binary form, you divide each octet by 2, and until it gets to 0. So the remainder, you write the remainder. If the remainder is 0, so you write 0, and if the remainder is 1, you write it 1. And then you write it from reverse, from bottom to top. Once you're done with the calculation, with the dividing, then you write from the bottom to top, so reverse way, then you get the binary form. We will have a video. It's a little bit, it's not difficult, it's not complicated, it's very easy. We will have a separate video for that to explain how we can change the decimal form into binary form. So wait for the next video, I will talk about that. Now, octet format in IP version 4, class A, it is as we mentioned before, there are 4 octets in each class of IP version 4, and 4 octets divided to either network portion or host. So class A has 1 network octet. That means in class A we have 3 host octets. So that being said, in class A we can have million of host IP addresses, and that means if you're working for a big organization or a big company with million employees that they need devices, computers to use, and they need users, then you can use class A IP address because it's giving you around 16 million IP addresses. And class B is giving you 2 octet of network and 2 octet of host IP addresses. So that being said, in class B, the 2 first portion are network, and the second 2 portions are host networks. And in class C, we get 3 portion of network and 1 portion or 1 octet of host. Means in class C, the number of hosts is very small. Means if we work for a small organization of around 200 or 254 users, we can definitely use a class C IP addresses. Now, as we mentioned that in class A, B, C, D, E, we have number of hosts and number of networks depend on the octets. So here we calculate the number of the ranges that we have for each class. Now for class A, the range is from 0.0.0 to 127.255.255.255, which we cannot use the 0.0.0. It's reserved for default routing, and the 127 is reserved for loopback. So we cannot use these two. Other than that, we can use all the IP addresses. And class B, it starts from 128 to 191. And class C starts from 192 to 223, and class D starts from 224 to 239, and class C starts from 240 to 255. Now, here is the calculation of number of networks in each class of IP address and number of hosts. In class A, how we can calculate the number of networks. In class A, we can say that 2 to the power of network bits minus priority bit. And so we know that in class A, we have only 1 octet of network, and that is 8-bit. So 2 to the power of network bit means 2 to the power of 8 minus 1. Priority bit in class A is 1, so minus 1. And that is 2 to the power of 7, and it's equal to 128. Now 128 minus 2, we have to remove the 2 networks that we discussed before, the 0.0.0 and that 127. So the total network in class A is 126. And the total number of hosts in class A is equal to 2 to the number of host bits minus 2. Now there's one difference here, so I just want to make sure that you consider this. In network, we minus the 1 from the power of the 2, means from 8. We minus it and then we calculate it. But here, we don't minus 2 from the number of power. So we minus from the total after the calculation. That means if we have 2 to the power of number of host bits, means 2 to the power of 24, means in class A we have 3 octets of host. So 8 plus 8 plus 8, it's 24. So 24 minus 2. So it is 16,777,216 minus 2. So that would be total 16,777,214 host IP addresses, which is a lot. Now in class B, the same, the only difference in class B is that the priority bit in class B is 2. So to the power of network bits minus priority bits. The network bits in class B, we have 2 portion or 2 octet of network. So that is 8 plus 8, 16. So 2 to the power of 16 minus 2, it's equal to 2 to the power of 14, and that is 16,384. Total network in class B is 16,384, and the total of host in class B, it is 2 to the power of number of host bits minus 2. So 2 to the power of, again, host bits or 2 octets. So 8 plus 8, 16. 2 to the power of 16 minus 2, it is a total is 65,536 minus 2, and that is total comes to 65,534, and this is class B. Sorry, not class A here. There's a mistake in the slide, but ignore that. So it's class B. Now in class C, the number of networks are 2 to the power of network bits minus priority bits. Now in priority bits, in class C it's 3, so 2 to the power of 24, because in class C we have 3 octets of network, so that would be 8 plus 8 plus 8, 24, 24 minus 3 is 21, so 2 to the power of 21 is equal to 20,97,152. So that means the total network in class C that we can get, it is a lot. It is a lot of networks we can get in class C, but we get a very small portion of or number of host networks, which is addresses, which is 2 to the power of number of host bits minus 2. So the host bit is only 1. 2 to the power of 8 minus 2, it's 26 minus 2. Minus 2, why? Because we have network ID and broadcast ID. That sorry, I think I forgot to mention this before in the previous slides. But why we minus 2? Because we have network ID and broadcast ID in every addresses, so we have to remove that because we cannot use that in the addresses, or we cannot assign it to any device. So that's why we minus 2, and that is 254. So that means in class C we can only extract or drive 254 IP addresses for the host. Also in IP addresses, we have 2 different IP addresses that can be assigned or used. One is private and the other one is public. What's the difference between a public IP address and private IP address? The public IP address are routable on the public internet and are used to communicate with devices across the globe. So the public IP addresses are mostly used by ISPs, Internet Service Provider, and they use them in order to route the packages from one location to another location, from source to destination, or from one country to another country, or from one location to another location, or within the city, or within the, but is mainly used for devices to communicate over the globe. Now, on the other hand, the private IP addresses are reserved for internal use within private networks and are not routable on the public internet. So that means the private IP addresses, like the one that we use, class A, class B, class C, these IP addresses are only used for internal networks. If you work for a company and that company has like 20 computers, you use any one of these private IP addresses, and those IP addresses are not to be configured on the router and they are not routable. So that is the difference. Now, dynamic and static IP address, the other thing that we have, this is basically the way how we can assign the IP address. There are different ways that we can assign. One is dynamically, that can be dynamically assigned by a DHCP server. DHCP means Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol Server. And dynamic addressing is commonly used for devices that frequently connect and disconnect from the network. In any organization, if we have a lot of users, it is best to have a DHCP server, which reduces the administrative work. or the IT person work, that he doesn't need to go to each and every device to assign IP addresses manually or statically, which is a lot of work to do. So DHCP will assign IP addresses on the devices automatically every time the computer is turning on, sending a request, a DHCP request, and the DHCP server responds back with the IP address. On the other hand, the static IP address is typically used for servers and network infrastructures where we want the IP address to be the same all the time. In DHCP server, the address may change because every time a new device is connected, if that IP address is available previously assigned to another device, that will be assigned because that is the way the DHCP works. It will assign any available IP addresses. It could be different IP address every time you turn on your computer. But a static IP address is good for the servers that we don't want the IP addresses to change, and also for the IT infrastructures. Like for example, if you have router or if you have any other devices that you want, or firewalls, or any devices that you don't want the IP address to change in the networks, so you assign a static IP address. And sorry, I forgot to mention one more thing. In dynamic IP addresses nowadays, mostly instead of using static IP addresses, mostly IT or administrators, they use reserved dynamic IP addresses. That means that in DHCP we can reserve IP addresses for the devices. So if you work for a company or organization where they have printers, and for printers you want static or fixed IP addresses that's not changing every time you turn off and turn on the printer, and also it's accessible all the time because you configure that printer to all the computers remotely or wirelessly. So we reserve that IP addresses on DHCP, it giving you the option to reserve the IP addresses for that device using the MAC address of the device. So that address will be fixed for that, it will not be changed. And that's, I believe, a very good feature and a very good option to use. In that is also reducing the amount of administrative work and IT work, and it is giving you a very good way to assign IP addresses dynamically and fixed. Thank you for watching, and wait for my new videos. You will get a lot of more videos. I will upload more videos with more topics to come. We will cover all the CCNA topics, theory, and also the lab part. So thank you again. Stay tuned. Have a good day, everyone.